It's great to have you here on the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. And we talk a lot on this show about saving for your future and retirement plans, but you know, not all of them are created equal. So how do you decide if your employer plan is worthy of your money? I'm going to tell you what to look for. Also, retailers and restaurants, they're trying all kinds of methods to get you in the door. And I've always been a sucker for a super mega monster soft drink. Go ahead. Clark Stinks is where you're right if you're unhappy that I drink soft drinks. Those of you who watch the YouTube show, you can see I have one right now. But what would you think for getting a gutbuster giant soft drink, having a coffee bucket, an individual coffee bucket that won't even fit in your drink holder in your vehicle? That's a trend right now. I'm going to talk about that later. All right. Here's something that is a trend I can't stand. What is the deal with the U.S. Congress deciding yet again to do nothing to fix this problem with teachers, people who work for nonprofits, being offered absolutely horrendous, terrible, awful retirement plans called 403Bs, when the rest of us who have an employer-provided plan are offered a 401k. The 403B is so hideously awful. And it's happening to, particularly it's much worse, tends to be much worse for teachers than it is for people who work in a lot of other nonprofits like hospitals or university campuses. But here's what's going on. The lobbyists from the insurance industry got Congress to put in place a system that purposely gives teachers these terrible retirement plan choices that have gigantic commissions, humongous ongoing expenses, and on top of them, a hideous thing known as surrender charges. That if you realize, oops, I'm getting cheated, that you have no way out easily because they charge you these giant fees to leave the terrible plan to force you to stay in. It is just awful. Well, I saw data recently about how badly teachers are being hurt by these hideous plans that they're in. And of all people, you wouldn't expect to write about this. Barron's magazine, that writes to the wealthiest people in the country, wrote a story about how teachers are being cheated. And that teachers are being so ripped off in fees in these plans that a teacher putting the same money in a 403B as you or I who have access to a 401k are putting in the typical 401k are ending up with just a little bit more than half the money in retirement of somebody working for a private employer. So, I mean, it's unbelievable how bad the ripoff is. So they give an example here of a teacher contributing $250 a month to her 403B plan versus somebody at a private employer putting $250 in. The expenses are so high in the hideous garbage that the insurance companies cheat the teachers with, that, remember, they put in the same amount of money. The teacher ends up with $185,000. The private sector worker ends up with just under $350,000. So one ends up with almost double the money when they want to retire. The other contributing the same money all through the years. Here's what you need to know if you have a teacher in the family or you're one yourself or a friend's a teacher. The insurance companies hide how they're cheating you. They hide all the information on the fees. And the school districts, in some cases, the unions and others, are leaving the teachers with these awful, hideous, terrible options. So what should a teacher do instead? Do your own Roth IRA. Do your own Roth IRA, unless you happen to be that rare needle in a haystack who's in a school district or has a union that's actually offering good plans for you. If you are a teacher, go to 403bwise.org or com. Chris is checking. You go to 403bwise, which is the nation's only advocate specifically focused on teachers not being cheated in 403bs.
.org.
403bwise.org. Why does this mean so much to me? We have a hard time attracting and retaining awesome teachers. If you think back through your life, your formative years as a kid, there's likely some teachers who had impact on you that made a difference for you the rest of your life. I know I had that. You did, Krista.
Ms. Hunningsbaum, she listens to the show.
The point is, why is it that teachers are treated as fodder to fill the pockets of insurers that cheat them? Cheat them. Do you know the expenses on these 403bs tend to be 30 times what they are in a 401k? 30 times. The math is wrong. And what is wrong with our individual members of the U.S. House and our 2 U.S. senators from our state, that they don't care about these teachers, that they put them in a position like this? Now, I'm on this topic. There are some employers that offer not the best 401ks. Very rare they're ever going to be as bad as these 403bs. And you have a right to see what expenses you're having to pay, what administrative costs and investment expenses. By the way, you should be in index funds and a plan, more often an index version of a target retirement fund, unless you're really into investing and want to do your own allocation. And when you change jobs, Congress left another bad thing in the rules. Do you know that when you leave a job, if you leave your 401k behind at your old employer, that there are employers that then gouge you with expenses just as somebody who's no longer working there? That's not a common one, but it's something you need to be aware of. Enough said about this. Can you tell I'm fired up? I don't understand what happens in the minds of these politicians that they are so willing, everything they do to get elected, that they're then in a position where instead of helping their constituents, they specifically are part of conspiring to hurt them. And I'm sure not one of them would say that they don't value teachers. but they valued the money from the insurance industry more.
Yeah, the 401k that you were talking about, like whenever somebody tells me they have their 401k through an insurance company, their work chooses an insurance company, I'm like, oh. Okay.
The insurance industry has actual reasons to exist that are good.
Right, for sure.
This is not an area.
Investments
is not when you should be at an insurance company, period. Individually, employer, nothing.
All right. Scott in Idaho has a question for you, Clark. I'm 23 and currently a college student. About a year ago, I started a small business with a friend, and it's been a great experience so far. I've actually received helpful advice from you in the past, and I'm very grateful for that. I recently heard you talk about how much you admire entrepreneurs and the positive impact of growing a team. That really resonated with me because my business partner and I are now at a point where we're considering expanding and potentially hiring employees. So far, our taxes have been relatively simple since we're co-owners, but even then, I've had to turn to resources like ChatGPT for help. As we think about growing, I'm concerned about staying compliant with government regulations and managing the added complexity, especially since hiring a professional help can be costly, something that's tough to budget for while I'm still in school. Do you have any advice for small business owners like me who want to expand responsibly without getting overwhelmed by administrative and tax-related challenges?
Scott, first of all, congratulations at every level. And you've reached this point where you and your friend have seen success way beyond your imagination at this point. I want you to crawl before you walk before you run, and run before you marathon. What do I mean by that? I don't want you hiring employees just yet. I want you to hire contractors at this point. There's way too much complexity for you with a business that's gelling to, right at this point, start hiring traditional employees. You have so much paperwork you have to deal with. I don't even want to get started. Everything that's involved. When you go from just the two of you running this to having people to help you, it would be completely common and normal with a startup that you would hire people, what's known as 1099. You pay them to do work for you. They work on, there's rules about how much you can control their schedule, but you come up with what you pay them per job or per hour or whatever, and you pay them as a contractor. And if things keep growing with your business, and you get to the point where there are people who you got to make sure you retain them, you keep them, you get to a size, then you get into the complexity of hiring actual employees, W-2 employees. And then you are going to need professionals along the way. It doesn't have to be like you think about going to somebody, you sit there and you hand them a stack of papers. A lot of it is now more automated. There are a lot of payroll services that are geared towards small businesses that handle a lot of the filings for you that have to be done for tax purposes and things like that. But then you also start getting to things with workers' comp and unemployment insurance and all that. So for now, build your business, but build it with contractors. It will become clear later when it's time for you to move to the next step, which will be hiring your first actual employees instead of contractors. And continued success to you and your friend.
All right. Anonymous in California says, recently you said Fidelity is your kid you put in time out. I just switched to them this year after listening to you. I'm not as upset as I agree with you, all you said about what they're doing and acting as a fiduciary in some instances and then selling bogus financial products to people. It's really infuriating. I have an account at Charles Schwab that it's a checking account I use for international travel benefits attached to the ATM card. Do I switch again and move things to Schwab? Will this hurt me much? Ironically, I moved things a few years ago from Schwab to Vanguard, but was so frustrated with Vanguard's customer service.
Customer no service.
Yeah, I ended up hearing you rave about Fidelity at one point, so I switched to them this year. I don't mind switching again, but want to know your thoughts. Thank you for all you do, all three of you, Krista, Wes, and Clark. I love you guys. We love you too, Anonymous.
Thank you very much, Anonymous. Okay, so no, don't bail on Fidelity. Just be aware of what I talked about, why I put them in timeout, is that Fidelity's doing this thing that I despise, the two-hat kind of thing, where they say, yeah, over here we're a fiduciary doing what's best for you, but over here we're not a fiduciary. We're selling you fill in the blank insurance products. So know that Fidelity is playing some of this two-hat game, and somebody starts doing the hard sell on you on some kind of annuity or something like that, thanks, but no thanks. Fidelity is a great organization. There's a moral and ethical blind spot here with Fidelity. I hope they fix it.
B in Ohio says, I can see how having a paid-off home in retirement would bring a great sense of peace. However, is it financially wise to pay off a mortgage with a fixed 2.85% interest rate?
No way.
We're only 3 years into a 30-year loan and plan to retire in the next 2 to 4 years. Upon retirement, we plan to sell a business, and the proceeds, along with a portion of a Roth IRA, could be used to pay off the remaining mortgage balance of about $560K. Even after doing so, we'd still have enough in our nest egg to cover other expenses. Should we pay off the low-interest mortgage for peace of mind or invest the business proceeds and continue making monthly payments for the remaining 27 years?
So, B, psychologically, it's fantastic to blow through that mortgage when the time comes that you could do that. I wouldn't. With you being fixed at 2.85%, you're trailing the inflation rate. And obviously, it's lower than what you can even earn on simple savings. So keep paying on this mortgage. The money you have is going to be more than enough to service it. It is an efficient use of your money to keep that mortgage in place at 2.85%. Wow, what a great deal. And you think about people today, if they go to take out mortgage money, they're at 7% plus or minus. So, yeah, you keep that there. You make sure you have money that you can use to service that mortgage debt every month, and you're good to go. And congratulations to you on being in a position that your finances are going to be so great from the sale of your business. As you're negotiating the sale of your business, if you don't have already, I want you to find an experienced CPA who handles tax matters. There will be things that an accountant will say, well, I wish you would have asked me first. Then when it comes time to sell your business, you want to have the kind of advice up front that you do things to the best you can for taxes on the proceeds of the sale of your business, i.e. things you can do that will help reduce the amount of tax you'll owe on the sale of your business. Coming up ahead, I want to talk about joy, for unalloyed joy, incredible, unlimited joy for coffee addicts. So, I've had coffee ice cream. I've never had coffee. It's not my thing.
Sacrilege. Just kidding.
Why is that sacrilege?
I'm just kidding. I don't drink coffee all day. I said recently I was an addict, but I'm not. But I have to have my morning cup of coffee or don't even speak to me.
And what happened this morning was you were in a rush. You didn't make a cup of coffee at home.
Yep. Well, I had one when I woke up, of course. But yeah, I usually bring a second cup in a to-go cup to work. And that's what I have, my 2 cups a day. No caffeine in the afternoon.
You didn't do that.
I didn't have it.
You're running late, and you got coffee at the studio.
I had to drink the swill that they make here.
So do you imagine that motor oil would taste better than this coffee?
Maybe. I couldn't even finish it. It was gross.
Yeah.
It's like the airplane coffee.
Well, we've had so much inflation over the last 6 years. And people are really feeling pressed and pressured. And a lot of people are indulging less and eating out. You see the results in so many price points of restaurants. And people are complaining about how much it costs if you go to a coffee place. So I read a story in the New York Times that there's a counter trend for coffee shops that's actually working for them. And I forget where it started, but they give you this jumbo giant cup of coffee. And it could be coffee or it could be some kind of frou-frou coffee drink, but it's massively large. And so
like a bucket, right?
A bucket of coffee. People, if you hear them suddenly sounding like they're really wound up, it could be because they had one of these buckets of coffee.
Wow.
And they tend to be 10, 11, 12 bucks for this big coffee drink. But the whole idea is it's the opposite of what's infuriating people in the supermarket with shrinkflation, where you go pick up the box and it feels like there's nothing in it because the food manufacturer put less and less and less in the box. This is going the other direction. Yeah, coffee costs more than it used to, but look how much of it we're giving you. And the reason, I'm not even a coffee drinker. Why did this trigger so much interest in me?
Well, you're always interested. Well, first of all, you're always interested in anything having to do with food and cost, for sure. And so many people do drink coffee, right?
Well, the reason for me is that it shows that, in a time of disruption like we've had with inflation and whatever ends up the effects of tariffs over the next couple of years, that business owners either adapt or they lose trust with their customers. They may not survive. This is an example that what do you do to make your day special for your customer? What thing can you do? You might not be able to give away your product, but maybe you come up with something or your service that makes them feel like they're getting more value. The reality is a lot of what happens when you go to a coffee place, it's labor, not the actual materials. The coffee beans, whatever. And so giving somebody that big bucket gives them enhanced value. And at the same time, your variable costs are not that much higher than they are from like a regular coffee. So how do you do that in your business? How do you give that customer the feeling they're getting real value? There are some restaurants that have been really successful at that, coming up with ways of giving people meals that feel like better value. We talked about that chain, Chili's, that has been booming because they have such a perceived value right now in the marketplace. How do you do that? Whatever works in your business, what I'm looking for from you is I'm looking for more value at a time that my dollar feels like it doesn't go as far.
Okay, we're going to go to questions now. Dave in California says, my son, who finished his second year in college, needs to buy and use a car for the last 2 years of school and for an internship he got. He has saved around $5,000 for a used car, and we as parents are deciding whether to supplement a little. His home state is California, his college is in Indiana, and his 4-month internship is in Atlanta. It's unclear where he would be after 2 years, but he'd definitely use it in Atlanta and Indiana until he graduates college. What factors should he consider in whether to buy the car in Atlanta versus Indiana, or should he just look for the most appropriate used car based on cost and reliability? Also, is there some definitive answer as to whether he should get his own insurance policy or be on the parents' insurance? Well, we did answer that recently.
We did answer that the
From
other
a
day.
tax standpoint, he will be our dependent through the time that he graduates college.
Yeah. So the insurance question, just very briefly, it's all over the board, whether it's cheaper to be on a parent's policy or cheaper to have your own. Usually it's cheaper to be on the parent's policy. Okay, so we've got this puzzle, 4-month internship in Atlanta, college in Indiana. You don't say if when he goes back to California, if he flies or this would be something, if he had a car, he would be driving. But let's say he's flying when he goes back home to visit. The internship is a temporary thing in Atlanta. He's going to have the vehicle a couple years in Indiana. So First, I'm going to take the question where you didn't ask. And that is the best deal in the marketplace right now by far is used electric vehicles, a lot of them with very low miles on them. As the technology's changed with electric vehicles, a lot of used ones are unloved in the marketplace and are having the lowest resale values of equivalent age used vehicles you could buy. Particularly when you're talking about he saved the $5,000, you may supplement some. You're going to be able to be within reach, potentially, with an electric vehicle right now, a used one, where you wouldn't be with a gas engine. Living at a college campus, odds are the school may well offer free vehicle charging, particularly if the school he's at in Indiana offers free charging. That would seal the deal, because then he doesn't have to buy gasoline. The range problem of getting to Atlanta at first, or buying in Atlanta and getting it back to Indiana, that's a different hassle for a different day.
Yeah.
Depending on the range that electric vehicle has.
There's a website, ChargePoint, that will, no, not ChargePoint, it's a Better Road Trip Planner, ABRP, which you can put in what electric car you have, and you put the place you're driving to and from, and it tells you all the charging and how you would charge and stop and how long it would take you.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and they have an app too. Okay, Jason in Oregon says, I received a cancellation notice from my home insurance company for a roof condition. My roof was 18 years old and fine. No missing shingles, virtually no moss, etc. So I reluctantly got roof quotes and committed to the roof replacement. Days after the roof was replaced, I received another letter from my insurance company stating to ignore the cancellation letter because it was sent in error. Can you?
No. In
other words, my roof was fine. What should I do? I'm very unhappy. I called the insurance company and they just told me, sorry, maybe we can give you a discount on your next premium. I appreciate your feedback. That is brutal.
Jason, we keep hearing from people about the roof thing. Insurers saying, replace your roof or you're out. Insurers are using roof condition as a way to get rid of somebody. I have a different situation with the roof, and I'm coming back to this. Mm-hmm. I replaced the roof on our home in 2018. The insurer said, no, the roof was from 2005. So I provided them a picture of the new roof being installed, time-stamped. So then they sent a revised thing saying, okay, so the roof was 2018. Then I just got a new letter from them saying that they'd taken it back to 2005.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, this roof thing is big with the insurance companies. At least they're not trying to cancel me over the roof. So I think what you do right now is insurance is regulated by the states. There's a big spotlight on homeowners insurers now all over the country. Contact the state insurance department in Oregon, tell them what happened, and see what's reasonable that you should receive, because the insurer, and we may hear from lawyers on this as well, the insurer threatened you with cancellation. You replaced a roof that still had more years in front of it because you didn't want to lose your insurance. And then they say, oops, just kidding? And they say, maybe we'll do something for you? That's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
It is, isn't it?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, Brandon in Florida says, I'm planning a family trip to Iceland next summer.
That makes you brilliant.
I thought you'd appreciate this, Clark, since you went to Iceland for your birthday. After my research, I found out that my insurance company doesn't cover vehicle rentals in Iceland. In fact, this is common with U.S. auto insurance companies. Do you have any suggestions for how I should insure myself? Is there a short-term vacation rental company in the States that would be cheaper than adding insurance through this Icelandic rental car company? Furthermore, the Icelandic rental company suggests gravel protection and sand and ash protection. Do you think that's really worth upgrading in these areas? I plan on doing the ring road, but I don't expect to be on roads that need 4x4 vehicles, of which there are many.
Okay, so Iceland is its own thing.
I remember you talking about the car rental before you went.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know if I mentioned when I talked about Iceland.
No, you mentioned that you went, but I don't think you talked about your car rental.
I haven't talked about. So we were in this huge gale force windstorm, rainstorm one day. And they tell you when you rent a car in Iceland that you always open the car door with two hands because the wind can take the door and rip it off the car. Sure enough, that day, that happened to somebody right near us at the place we were along the south coast and ripped their door, and they had to buy, it damaged the fender, they had to buy a new door, the whole thing. I mean, it's crazy. Insurers have no interest in insuring rentals in Iceland. You're an auto insurer in the U.S. for the most part. They put a big kibosh on Iceland because the conditions are so crazy harsh. It's also one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. And the day we were leaving, I was so sad I wanted another 10 days to 2 weeks there. It's great. I'm going back. On the car. So Iceland has an unusual circumstance. They have a lot of local auto insurers that when you land at Keflavik, that you can rent from these companies no one's ever heard of in the United States. And when you rent from them, it covers all this stuff. Because if you try to put it together, if you do happen to have a U.S. auto insurer that will cover you there, surprising, but that's great. You can use that. If you use one of the credit cards, you look on Reddit, people are complaining every which way about that. Now, we only went South Coast. If you're going to do the full ring road all the way around, you stand more danger of all these different things that you talked about with the sand, the ash, the gravel, on and on and on. As somebody who always depends on having a credit card for primary, knowing that my auto insurance is in line behind that, I would say that Iceland is one place, and we had no damage there because of where we went. But if you go into F-road territory, if you're going to Iceland, you'll know what F-roads are. You go on the far east coast of Iceland, parts of the north, you want to rent from one of these Icelandic renters that includes everything and expects the car to get damaged, not your problem then. There I said it. It's hard for me to spit it out. That there is one case that it makes sense to have coverage from a car rental company. Now, because of where we were going, we had, they offer collision damage coverage with a high deductible automatically included with rentals in Iceland. So I was willing to risk that. But if you're doing extensive travel, wouldn't do it there. So there's my exception to my rules about insuring a rental car.
Speaking of travel, tomorrow I have you slated, not tomorrow, the next, on Wednesday, sorry, I'm like getting all my days mixed up. I'm still in the weekend. You're going to talk about a type of insurance we all need to buy when we're traveling, and it's not regular trip insurance.
Yeah, that almost nobody buys. Okay.
So
that will be coming up for you on Wednesday.
That's an important one. I was surprised.
On the Clark Howard podcast and YouTube show. What were you surprised about?
I was surprised when you said that. Like, everyone should be buying. Like, I've never heard you say that before about this.
Well, I'll say who should buy it.
Okay.
But everybody needs to know if they need to buy it.
Okay. I mean, I feel like we all should, but okay.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I'm going to explain.
All right.
That's coming up Wednesday. But anyway, what day is it today?
Today's Monday.
Very good.
It's Monday.
You must have wild weekends that you can't remember.
Oh, they're crazy. I read a whole book.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, wow. Mystery or?
No. Just a, summer read, I'll call it.
Oh, a trashy book.
Not too trashy.
Okay.
Mid.
Mid-trash.
Yeah.
A mid-trash.
An easy read, an easy, predictable read. Kind of knew what was going to happen in the first few chapters.
That's funny.
Mindless, you know.
All right. Well, enough mindless.
And I got it for free through the Libby app on my Kindle.
Now, that's important information.
Through my library.
And if you love to read, you got to look at our article at clark.com that tells you all the ways you can read for free. Because that's a great thing to do. And that's what we're about, is every which way we put information into your hands to improve your personal situation, financially, otherwise. And remember, all week long, we've got one-on-one free advice for you available at clark.com/CAC, something we've been doing, one-on-one free advice, since 1993. That's a long time. Long time. Anyway, have a great one. Know that we want you to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off.
And Wes and I will be here tomorrow, and then Wednesday we will be back.
That sounds great. And why do you sit when you're with Wes and you stand?
You're going to give away a trade secret. Because Wes is so much taller than I am.
Wes is, he's only 7'1", right?
He's so tall that when we try to stand, you can't even see his head. It's terrible. So we have to sit and adjust our chairs.
Being 7'1", he kind of looks like a giraffe standing next to you.
He's tall. He's not 7'1", but he's tall.
Very tall. Okay, anyway, Wes tomorrow, me on Wednesday. Have a great day.